Hey everybody, welcome to the video. It's Thursday, July 8th, and we're breaking down the 7-game main slate that we have over on DraftKings today. And it can very easily turn into 6 because this Baltimore and Toronto game, it's looking pretty iffy, and I'd be kind of shocked if it does end up playing. Looking at the forecast as of right now, I'm recording this video the night before the games are actually going to happen, so I'm not trying to predict the weather out here, but I know with Hurricane Elsa coming in and all the weather over there, it's looking like this game could easily be a washout, so don't get your hopes up to play this game. But if it does play, I have them listed on here just in case because it's a really good spot for them. But if you find this video helpful in any way possible, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me over on social media in order to find me using the handles in the bottom right corner of your screen. And if you want to help support the channel over on Patreon, get access to some extra content. Link is down below in the description for that. You get access to the projections, the optimizer, ownership projections, rankings, cheat sheets, data sheets, Discord community. All that fun stuff link is down below. And last but certainly not least, this video is sponsored by PrizePicks. I'm sure most of you know what it is by now, but if you happen not to, it's pretty much the simplest fantasy game in the industry right now. All you gotta do is beat the projections. You're not going up against sharks, you're not going up against optimizers, 150 max kind of players. It's just you versus the proper projection, and there's a lot of fun ones on there. Like there's an endless list of baseball stuff, and they cover a whole bunch of other sports. And as of right now, they're offering a free money bonus of $200 instant deposit match as soon as you sign up using code CPEN. If you deposit 10, 50, 100 bucks, it's just free money when you deposit, so you might as well use that to your advantage. And I was kind of scraping through yesterday, and I found some really interesting stuff that almost felt like free money, to be honest. Like I saw Vlad for like over half an RBI or run throughout the entire game, and like over half a run during the game. And I was like, these seem pretty easy going against Matt Harvey, so if you just kind of scrape around, look at all the props, there are some pretty enticing ones if you could get on them early, but I'd really recommend checking that out. And if you do, make sure you use the link down in the description below and use code CPEN once you do that, just to get some free money up to $100. I think that's it for the plugs for the most part, so without further ado, let's dive into today's video. And as per usual, we'll start with the pitchers and move on to the bats. And up top, we have a couple of aces here, Max Scherzer and Yu Darvish, two of the better pitchers in baseball, especially Max Scherzer. And these guys are both pitching in the same game, opposite side of each other, so it's definitely going to be a low-scoring one. At least that's what you'd think. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into a high-scoring game, but we're going to be in some trouble tomorrow. But only a 3.5 implied team total here for the Padres, 3 total for the Nationals after they had double-digit runs versus Chris Paddock, but should be a pretty low-scoring affair here, and it's definitely going to be a fun pitcher's duel to watch. But let's start up top here with Max Scherzer, $10,400. Pretty tough matchup here versus the Padres. We know they have an endless supply of pretty good bats. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, and some good outfielders like Trent Grisham, Tommy Pham, Will Myers, and some other bats, Jake Cronenworth, and the list goes on. It's a pretty good offense, and he's an underdog here going against Yu Darvish, which I totally understand is a pitcher-friendly park in Petco, but again, I don't really like to pick on the Padres, so it's definitely a tough spot here for Max Scherzer, but his numbers are so good, I always give the advantage to elite level pitching over a good matchup, and that's kind of the case that we have right here. But on the season, Scherzer sitting at a really nice 2.1 ERA, 3.2 xFIP, 2.82 SIERA, 35.5% K rate, not really giving up too much power. In the past, he's really struggled with lefty power, but he's actually given more power to the righties this season rather than the lefties, which does kind of concern me a little bit going against the Padres, because guys like, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Tommy Pham, those guys have plenty of pop in their bat versus either righties or lefties here. So Scherzer's going to have to be a little bit careful. He might give up a solo shot or two, but hopefully it does come with the strikeouts. He's over 12 Ks per 9 this season, only 2 walks per 9, so I think he should be just fine. It's not like he's getting destroyed in the power department. Yes, he gives up a lot of fly balls, but only a 148 ISO overall, so I think he should be just fine. So if you have the money for him, Scherzer, projection-wise, should be the top play on the slate, even though he does come in as an underdog here. In game opposite side here, we have Yu Darvish, $10,200. If you want to just chase the lower implied team total against and the favorite here, I guess Yu Darvish would be your guy. Plus, it's a softer over matchup versus the Nationals, although the past couple of nights they have been kind of pesky. Even without the hottest hitter on the planet, Kyle Schwarber, in the lineup, I guess they're just making up for it. But 30% K rate, 3.7 xFIP, 3.3 SIERA, doesn't give up much power. Not a lot of hard contact, just over a homer per 9. Again, I don't love the matchup for the Nationals. I don't love the matchup for Max Scherzer here versus the Padres, but these guys are both elite level pitchers, and just raw points wise, these are going to be the top plays in the entire slate. I'm probably not getting to both of them. We'll have to see, because I obviously like the Blue Jays, but I'm not exactly sure if that game's going to play. It's looking like it's not, so if that game gets wiped out, I guess we don't have to chase those really expensive bats, so I could see where you would want to double spend it for pitcher. It's just going to kind of be slate dependent on how the weather goes and what kind of bats that we are using, but both guys are obviously phenomenal plays and definitely the best pitchers on the slate. you're looking to save some money, we have Tyler Mahle here, 8,700 bucks. Good strikeout upside matchup here versus the Milwaukee Brewers. It's definitely a hitter-friendly park, Milwaukee, but that's no issue for Tyler Mahle considering he pitches in Cincinnati all the time. So now he's going to Milwaukee. I guess we'd even call it a boost here for Tyler Mahle. But even then, I like the strikeout upside here versus Milwaukee. He's sitting at around 30% K rate this season. Walk guys, which is a bit of an issue here, but the Brewers, looking at their splits versus right-handed pitching this season, striking out over a 25% clip, only a 155 team ISO, 3-on WOBA, and 88 WRC+. I think Mahle should be just fine here. They're striking out more versus lefties than they are versus righties, but I would not be surprised if we could get 6-7 plus strikeouts here to Mahle, and that'd be just fine at 8,700 bucks. After Tyler Mahle, we have a couple of interesting options here. One's probably going to get rained out, but I do have him listed here in case this game does play. But we'll start with the more boring one here with Zach Eflin, 7,500 bucks. He's kind of priced appropriately because he's a boring pitcher. Doesn't have a ton of strikeout upside, but he's not really a bad pitcher. It's just he's a better real-life pitcher than he is DFS-wise. Like, on the season, he's sitting at a 3.6 xFIP, 3.7 Sierra, 22% K rate, not really walking many guys whatsoever, which I do like, only 3% walk rate. We'll give some power. I mean, he's a fine middle-of-the-rotation kind of pitcher in real life, but for DFS purposes, it's nothing too exciting, but I wanted to give you guys some options down low in case you need to save some money. He limits the hard contact, which is nice, only sitting at 26% this season, and the Cubs, they're a team that will struggle with strikeouts versus right-handed pitching, sitting at nearly 27% K rate versus righties this season, which is near tops of the league. I do have some power, which is the only downside here, but that's something that Zach Eflin is good at limiting. I think we're going to have some pitching weather once again in Wrigley. I know that didn't really work out well last night, but again, it's just Wrigley Field. It's pitching weather. Wind should be blowing in, going to be a little bit cooler. So, I mean, it's definitely a bump here for the pitchers in this game. And then 89 WRC plus for the Cubs versus righties. And I think he's fine for the price point. Not expecting a huge ceiling game or anything, but only a 4 implied team total against him. And I think he's okay. Again, nothing exciting, but I think he can kind of glide by at 7,500 bucks. And if this game happens to play, Alek Manoah here, 6,800 bucks. I like the upside more than I would with Zach Eflin. The problem is, I have my concerns that this game plays. Looks like the rain's going to roll in. It's supposed to be nice all day in Baltimore until around, first pitch is supposed to happen. It doesn't look like the rain's going to stop. I'm not really trying to predict the weather here the day before the slate starts, but as of right now, the hourly forecast does not look too promising for this game. But if it happened to play, Manoah's coming off a fantastic game where he had nearly around 40 DraftKings points, and it's a smaller sample size here this season, but K rate's sitting close to 30%. The walks are a little bit up there, and he is giving up some power, near 200 ISO, but Baltimore's a team that's been a lot better versus lefties than they have versus righties. Versus lefties this season, a lot of contact and actually some pretty decent numbers, but versus righties, they have definitely been struggling, close to a 25% K rate, 154 team ISO, 84 WRC plus, and a 293 WOBA. Plus, he's a massive favorite, and if the game plays, he can go the 5+ innings. I mean, I'd be very shocked if he doesn't pick up the win. He's below $7,000. He'd be a very interesting SP2 option for me, but we're going to have to monitor the weather. Being said, I think that'll be it for the pitching, so we'll move right over to the bats. And we'll start up top with the catcher position. We have JT Realmuto with 3,500 bucks. Again, not my most favorite game to target for the bats. Looks like it's going to be a bump for the pitching here, and I would say the pitchers are terrible. I mean, Zach Eflin's fine, and Alzolay has spurts of being pretty solid. I mean, he's not the greatest pitcher out there, but only a 4 implied team total here for the Phillies. But JT Realmuto is just too cheap for being one of the better hitting catchers in baseball. Above a 180 ISO this season, 260 batting average. Numbers aren't really as great as you think they would be, but I mean, 3,500 bucks for Realmuto just seems cheap. He's a good cash game catcher because he hits near the top of the order. So if you got the money for him, great. If not, I don't think it's the end of the world. Ryan Jeffers, 3,400 bucks. Going against Drake Skubal, who is not a bad pitcher. He's got a good strikeout rate. Like, Skubal's not bad. Like, I rostered him before this season just because of his strikeout rate. But the one thing he will struggle with is walks, and he gives up power to right-handed bats. And there's a couple of good righties in this lineup, like Josh Donaldson, Nelson Cruz. I wouldn't put Ryan Jeffers in quite the same category as those guys, but he's still a righty here, and he hits near the middle of the order, which is not that bad for a catcher. But like I was saying, he gives up some hard contact. He gives some power. He got a good 27.5% K rate, but he got a double-digit walk rate. He's giving up a 186 ISO this season and over a 40% hard contact rate and close to 2 homers per 9. And if we look specifically to the righties, the strikeout rate, again, it's good, which is why I don't love stacking against the guy, but he's giving up a 238 ISO, a 40% hard contact rate, and 2.2 homers per 9. So the righties do look pretty good here versus Skubal. I don't really want to roster high strikeout guys versus him, which Ryan Jeffers is the guy that will strike out quite a bit, 34.5% K rate this season, but there's a little bit of power upside there, and over a 5 implied team total here for the Twins. They do look like a decent stack tonight. Then Danny Jansen, 2,200 bucks. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I got to mention the weather. It does not look like this game will play, but if they happen to play, they are by far the best offense on the slate. They are on the road in Camden Yards, one of the best places to hit. Keegan Aiken's not a very good pitcher. You get the righty and lefty matchups here, where there's a lot of good righties in this lineup. You get the guaranteed ninth inning at bats on the road. So if the game happens to play, yes, the Blue Jays are by far the best stack on the slate, but do not get your hopes up. Now, I'll try to refrain from mentioning the weather throughout the video so it doesn't sound redundant, but just keep that in mind. And then dropping in at first base, Vlad, $6,000. I mean, he'd pretty much be the top play in the entire slate here. Very expensive, but I mean, the guy just has fantastic numbers this season, batting .335, .342 ISO, 4 WRC plus, and over 1,100 OPS. Had a pretty good game last night. Love the spot here. Nice righty on lefty matchup versus Aiken and whoever else the Orioles trying to throw out there in the bullpen. And their team total is now sitting at 6.5. Like, that is very, very massive, almost like they're in Coors Field. Miguel Sano, $3,600, just some more righty power here versus Skubal, but just know you're probably either getting a homer or nothing, because Miguel Sano is a guy that's going to have a massive strikeout rate on the season, striking out at nearly a 40% clip. And like I said, Skubal's got a good strikeout rate. The one thing I do like is he does have a 228 ISO, and like we already mentioned, Screwball here will give up plenty of pop. So going to be homer or nothing here for Sano, but if you are stacking the Twins, I do like the power upside. Then Miguel Cabrera, $3,000. I ever mentioned some Detroit Tigers versus a lefty, you already know that that pitcher is definitely really, really bad. And that's what we have here with J. Happ. The guy is just not a good pitcher these days. Pretty low total here at 4.4 for the Tigers versus a guy like Happ. I know they're one of the worst teams in baseball versus left-handed pitching. They've been absolutely abysmal this season, but I do not trust J. Happ. The guy is just not a good pitcher. Yes, he will have a couple of good starts here and there, but overall, the guy is a punching bag for the most part. His numbers on the season are very, very mediocre. He's sitting at a 6.09 ERA, 5.4 xFIP, around a 5 SIERA, 17% K rate, giving up close to a 200 ISO, a 47% fly ball rate, 35% hard contact rate, and close to 2 homers per 9. So I know the Tigers are absolutely atrocious versus left-handed pitching, but this is also an atrocious pitcher on the mound. So I do think the Tigers would make some sense today. Plus on the road, so you get those guaranteed ninth inning at bats. Then dropping out second base, Marcus Semien, $5,500. He's been on fire this season, leading off for the best stack on the slate. Don't really think I have to go too in depth here. Jorge Polanco, $4,300. Again, just like these righties here on the Twins versus Skubal. Again, it's not my most favorite pitcher to pick on. The guy is pretty good. I think he's going to be pretty good down the road. But as of right now, he does struggle with the power quite a bit and walks. And I do think the righties do grade out pretty well here versus Tarek. And then Cesar Hernandez, $3,900. If the Blue Jays happen to get rained out, teams like the Twins and Indians, I definitely think you're going to gain some ownership just because they're kind of like your next best teams. Yes, there's a couple of other good spots, but just don't look too bad for their price points. Hernandez should be leading off here. I know he's not the most exciting hitter in the world, but he has shown some decent power this season. Sitting at 185 for his ISO, which is higher than you really expect. Jenny Duffy just kind of seems like he's been sliding a little bit, so I think the Indians righties do make some sense here versus Duffy. They're dropping on third base. We have Josh Donaldson, $5,400, just righty power versus Skubal. Ramirez, $5,200. Last season, he was pretty much the best player in baseball versus left-handed pitching. Still been good versus them this year, but kind of better versus righties. But we know Jose Ramirez, one of the raw hitters in baseball, 270 ISO this season, has plenty of pop versus left-handed pitching. And then Candelario, $3,400. It's not a great hitting slate when the Detroit Tigers look like one of the best stacks on the slate, but for their price points, they're all pretty cheap for the most part. And J. Happ, not a good pitcher like I've already mentioned many times. He's not a big power guy, Candelario that is, but decent batting average, 270 for a guy that's only $3,400 and hits near the top of the order. Then going to shortstop, we have Bo Bichette, $5,500. I want to say around 26, 30 points last night. Nice righty lefty matchup here versus Aiken. Do like him quite a bit if you got the money for him, but he is very expensive, and I'd probably prioritize guys like Vlad or the outfielders or Marcus Semien than I would Bo Bichette, but he's obviously the lead option here, probably more so in tournaments. Ahmed Rosario, $4,500, just righty on lefty matchup here versus Denny Duffy, and the Indians, I think, do make for a decent stack tonight, especially if that Blue Jays game happens to not go. And Zach Short, $2,300. Only a 49 plate appearance sample size this season, but he does have a 222 ISO, 140 WRC plus, over a 400 OBP. A nice righty on lefty matchup here versus Happ. Dropping out of the outfield, we have Nelson Cruz versus the lefty that is giving up plenty of power to right-handed bats this season. We know Nelson Cruz has been making a living off of crushing left-handed pitching over the course of his career. George Springer, Teoscar Hernandez, really nice righty on lefty matchups here versus Keegan Aiken. Both guys have plenty of pop in their bat. They're just a little bit expensive, but definitely on the top stack on the slate. Franmil Reyes, $4,000, just recently returned to the lineup, but he's been fine. And on the season, good numbers, especially in the power department. Over a 300 ISO this season with a 272 batting average and a 381 WOBA. If you are stacking up the Indians, do not leave off Franmil. And then Randall Grichuk, just part of the Blue Jays onslaught of outfielders I do like today, but he's the most cheapest one, so I would probably lean towards him just to try to save some money if I can't get quite up to George Springer or Teoscar Hernandez, who are $1,000 more expensive. And Grichuk has plenty of power versus lefties, over a 200 ISO this season. Then if you are stacking the Tigers, their leadoff guy at a pretty cheap price point, Robbie Grossman, $3,100, who is a switch hitter, so he'll have the righty and lefty matchup here versus Jay Happ. Not a very exciting hitter for the most part, only batting 226 this season and 165 ISO. And for a leadoff hitter, those numbers are pretty pedestrian, but he does play for the Tigers, so you can't really expect too much here. But it's pretty gross when I think the Tigers are a good stack on a slate, but the way this one's shaping up, it looks like we could definitely be playing some Tigers on this one. But with that being said, guys, I think that'll be it for the video. So I hope it was helpful, and if it was, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me over on social media if you feel like that's something you want to do. And if you want to help support the channel over on Patreon, link is down below in the description for that. You get access to a lot of extra content that I do update throughout the day. The optimizer, ownership projections, regular projections, rankings, cheat sheets, top stacks tool, in the Discord community. All that can be found in the link down below if you do want to join the community. And don't forget to check out Prize Picks if you have not yet done so. You can get a free money bonus, instant deposit match up to $100 using code CPEN. And it's a lot easier than playing DraftKings and FanDuel. I will tell you that. There's no salary cap restrictions. You don't have to play against sharks or anything like that. It's just you versus the projection. And you can find lots of good, easy props on there for the right lines to come out. Because I saw some juicy ones yesterday, which were definitely some good fun. So check it out. Very fun site to play on. It's very, very easy to understand and grasp, especially if you're brand new to DFS. I definitely recommend that to beginners starting out. But with that being said, guys, I think that'll be it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And enjoy the NBA Finals if you happen to be watching that tonight.